Well, welcome back. This is the So There I Was podcast. I'm your host, Travis Womack. Today we have a special guest, Adam Bratz.
Bratz.
I was, like the food, all right.
Yep, multiple German sausages.
We've got a fun topic ahead of us. And Adam is a pretty significant LinkedIn influencer. He's here in Las Vegas, where we're at, live, sort of. And for the Military Influencer Conference. He's a speaker here on Friday. So if you're in town, by all means, stop by and give him a listen. He's also recently released his book. I'll make sure I get the name of it right. What's it?
LinkedIn Mastery for Veterans and Transitioning Service Members.
So, good deal. So if you haven't got that, we'll get the link to you to purchase that.
Yep.
So, and definitely want to, if you're a veteran out there, this is a great resource. I got to read through it on the flight today. And,
you did? Oh,
and
cool.
it's I didn't finish it, to be honest, but I really tried. It was a 5 a.m. flight up to a nap too, but it's. I put a comment in your Amazon thing about how a big fan of me is to keep it simple, and I would say your book is private proof in that regard, in a great.
Oh, that's good to know.
So
yeah.
It's very good for someone who's never had a LinkedIn account to start. If you have one, it's a great resource to have as far as, hey, this is how you can improve what you have. How to change your verbiage, how to utilize the algorithm to your advantage, and all those things. So, and it explains it very well. There's a lot of screenshots, a lot of pictures for the Marines out there. Sorry, I had to. I couldn't help it. You have an Army guy and an Air Force guy in one room. We're going to make fun of the Marines and Navy. So, but anyway, so it's a great resource. Definitely recommend it, and we'll put the link in the description and whatnot. So our topic today, though, Adam, you've posted a whole lot about a couple of videos about Brovet, and a couple of videos you've had about stolen valor, which are separate topics in themselves, but kind of within that realm is, I call it service shaming, where veterans of different eras, different branches, in any kind of crisscross you want to do it, seem to discredit others.
Right.
And like say, hey, well, my service was harder than yours, so yours doesn't count, or a whole bunch of things in there, and not in the background of the humor. Like I just made fun of the Marines, and Marines like crowns, and I'm a paratrooper, and the Air Force, crew chiefs and loadmasters despise us because we always leave crap on the airplane, because it's funny. But there's general humor and general memes that are pretty funny. But
you make us get up from our chairs.
Exactly.
Which is our safe space.
So all those kind of things. So there's good sports rivalry is what I like to compare it to.
Oh yeah.
But
Definitely.
at the end of the day, we still know we're all on the same team. But and for today's conversation is more on the veterans that are getting out, as far as particularly going towards employment. And how that looks. So it's kind of what your opening thoughts on that.
Well, I think we there's a lot of things that we touched on there, but they all have common threads, and they all allude to a larger cultural issue in the veteran community. And I don't want to make it sound like to somebody who is on the heels of a transition that they're going into an absolute disaster. But there are certain things that change between veterans of different branches, of different generations, of the vibe changes drastically once you're out of the military. And that's not something that people are prepared for, because the people doing the preparing don't know. They don't know what they don't. It's the blind leading the blind. Your first sergeant who's giving you life advice about your post-service career, and they haven't worked a civilian job or hung out with civilian veterans ever,
yeah.
Right?
Doing it out of high school, I don't know that.
So they don't know. So they don't know. And your TAPS coordinators, they were service members, and they went right from being in service to being a government employee. They don't understand what's on the other side of the wall. And on the other side of the wall, there's a lot of really good things, but then there's also a lot of superficial things that mask some very concerning issues interpersonally between veterans and between civilians and veterans. So we talk about, the kind of the comical idea of the vet bro, which I've done content about, and And so there's a humorous end of that, but then on the serious end, we have the stereotypes that make it difficult to gain employment, or to rise in your career, or to avoid underemployment, or to reintegrate socially. And we talk about stolen valor. Obviously, that's a serious issue. And there are videos of people laughing at, like, I can't believe this person's doing this and whatnot. But we get so ravenous and so protective of our own veteran status that, we will drag and tar and feather these people who are clearly going through mental health issues.
Right. Or something else. They're just seeking some sort of acceptance.
Yeah, some sort of cry for help. I mean, unless they're just trying to lie for personal gain, which, and I don't have data to back it up, but I'm sure it is vastly in the minority. Yeah. I mean, it is cry for help most of the time, but like the veteran community just leads the way in just like throwing any sort of empathy or understanding out the window and just turning into a mob that tears these people apart, and then they turn on each other, and they tear, there's infighting in the veteran community, and then there's the misunderstandings between, and the stereotypes between non-veteran civilians and veterans who are trying to reintegrate with their career. Yeah. So there's all of these complex dynamics, and it's not all horrible, but it's also not all great.
Right.
And often transitioners are led to believe that it is all great because there is the facade, there is the yellow magnetic ribbon on the back of somebody's car that says we support our troops, and there's the Toyota commercials that are we support our troops.
Spent $4 on a magnet, of course I did.
Yeah, exactly. But those mask some serious subconscious bias that can affect somebody's reintegration personally, professionally, and so on.
So what is
I just gave you a whole
that's great.
mouthful.
That's great. I love it, man. It's awesome. For me, I think so you're a drill instructor.
MTI, military training instructor. Air Force has got to call everything.
Yeah, you have your own acronyms because we can't spell. And I was a recruiter years ago, and so I got to see kind of what you're talking about all the time, going to schools, and people were very like, "Oh, we support the troops. This is great. Thank you so much for your service. Don't talk to my kid."
Yeah, exactly.
Like instantly. And it was for me, I remember that exact feeling of like teachers or librarians or assistant principals or whatever in the town. One lady I'll never forget was a bank teller. Nothing wrong with that. We need bank tellers.
Yeah.
And she was irate and like, my daughter has, plans and future and all these things, and like verbally assaulted me literally in my office. And I was like, she's not like you, doesn't have other options in life. I was like, I had a full scholarship for school.
Yeah.
Like I was going to college for math.
That's a really good point. That is one of the biggest stereotypes that veterans face, is that they are, the whole you probably heard this 1,000 times if you heard it once growing up, that people only join the military if they're too dumb to go to college.
Right. They can't afford college and they're too dumb for them. Yeah, it's terrible.
I've heard it 10,000 times. You only join if you're too dumb to go to college. Meanwhile, if you look at the data, adults that have prior military service achieve higher education at a higher rate than non-veterans. So dollar for dollar, you place a veteran next to a non-veteran at the same age, the same stage, whatever, you are more likely to find somebody with either an associate's or bachelor's or higher in the veteran. But the misconception is still there. The stereotype is, that person just, I support them because they fight for our country, but I wouldn't hire them. They're not smart.
Right.
They didn't. So I think that's a really excellent point. And that stereotype, along with the interpersonal stereotypes. Veterans are a monolith, and they're all robotic and inflexible and temperamental, short-fused, and too intense. Which is just it just robs our entire extremely diverse and beautifully talented and interdisciplinary community. It just robs us of our humanity and puts us in this one tiny little box. Yeah, it's infuriating.
Yeah, one thing I used to tell people when I was in the infantry was when I was a recruiter, people are like, oh, you're in infantry, so you didn't have any skills. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, when you get out, the only job you're going to be able to get is a security guard or a cop.
Security guard or a cop.
And I was like, really? You don't think I can do management? Well, no. I'm like, have you ever been in an infantry platoon? Like, it's 48 guys. From my platoon in Iraq, 2006, there were 48 of us from 19 different states in five different countries.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, you have different race, you have different cultures, you have different backgrounds, you have different, you know, I was like, we had a huge amount of people from California, Ohio, Florida, and Texas. So what do you think we talked about all the time? Whose football was better? You know? And it was,
well, I mean, you want to talk about true effective leadership. Make a high-performing team out of a diverse and disparate group.
Exactly. That's
and
exactly
like
what my
the
argument was.
most possible diverse.
Yeah.
I mean, but you and I know that.
Yeah. But people don't realize that. I think it's the point of this whole podcast is that idea of like to take those 48 guys and say, hey, look, we're all different, we're all crazy, we jump out of planes for no good reason, but to come together for a common goal and achieve that and make sure we all came back alive. You know, I think to explain that to an employer, if you're out there, like that is what, when you have leadership experience or management experience, doesn't matter what your MOS was or job or whatever you call it in the Air Force.
AFSC.
Yeah, crazy words. Good God. It's 3 letters. 3 letters max. That's the rule. But is how do you verbalize that in your LinkedIn profile, especially of like, hey, I did this job for 4 years, putting like, when you transfer your evaluation reports, responsible for $4 million of equipment, blah, 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 with 0 losses, like no civilian knows what that even means.
Right.
You know,
yeah,
like
they
if you're
have
a tank
idea.
platoon sergeant and you have your, 8-10 tanks, I have no idea, tanks are expensive, responsible for $85 million in tanks. It's like, well, what does that even mean?
Yeah, I mean, they don't know what a platoon sergeant is,
right,
and they don't
exactly.
know the difference between a platoon sergeant and a flag officer.
Right.
Especially like the percentage of Americans who either serve themselves or have an immediate family member who is either serving or has served. That number has dwindled drastically. So what we have is an experience gap and an understanding gap.
Yeah.
Military lifestyle and military life and deployment life and combat life, like that's all been, for as long as there has been media, it's been sensationalized. But I think it really, really has been, especially in the post 9/11 era, it's been sensationalized. And like I said earlier, there's been that facade of respect and reverence, and that has often been used to mask other stuff.
To mask other emotions, for sure. I think it affects people, not only how you verbalize it, but also how it's being received is a big thing. And I've gone through coaching courses and stuff, so I like to think I'm more spoken about my craft than the average veteran. But I think part of veterans that are talking to other veterans, I think is the biggest key, is how we treat each other will reflect how others treat us.
Oh man, that's huge.
And I think there's a place there where, you and I have some fun here the past little bit, just make fun little jabs at different, because that's what we do. But at the end of the day, if it came down to it, we both know we have a common goal if it came to it.
Yep.
And I think, if you were a Vietnam vet and I'm a current vet or vice versa, is to understand that we're all on the same team. And like, it's not my fault that I was born in 1980 and didn't get to fight in Vietnam.
Right.
It's not your fault that you're born whenever you're born. And like World War II vets or Korea, which are all very old, obviously, probably not going to be hiring you, but the Vietnam generation, they will, and the Desert Storm generation definitely will. And for us to look down on somebody in any direction of that arrow, of like, well, pure Desert Storm, like that wasn't really a real war. It's like they didn't have an option. They were in, they went and did what they were supposed to do, and they came back. And for anybody that joins in this war, it's like, well, you didn't have 4 deployments, you have none. It's like there's not like a roster you can go sign up on and like catch a plane on Tuesday.
If that's I mean, obviously, we cannot discount the experiences of people who have served in combat. We cannot discount the experience of people who have deployed. But we also can't discount the value of the people whose number wasn't called.
Right.
You know, it's that whole like who's more of a veteran than who thing.
Right.
It's like we all served in our own way, and you know, we did what was asked of us, and we served honorably, and you know, every single cog in this machine is important.
Yeah.
A guy who was not a fan of mine, another service member, who was kind of stalking and harassing me, and his big thing was that, you know, my first position, and we talked about this earlier, I started out in the Air Force Band. I was under the Greater Wing of Public Affairs. My undergraduate education was in music. That's what I did before I became an instructor. But his thing was harassing me, and he'd go on Instagram and be like, "Oh, you think you were really in the military, but all you did was play this skin flute." Like, he actually said it like a middle schooler.
Wow.
And you know, like you pretend like you're a real veteran, but I know the truth. I mean, just going off on me, and it. So I shared a photo of me from my deployment.
Yeah.
I deployed.
Yeah.
I deployed to combat areas.
Yeah.
I had the gold ribbon. I'm not saying I saw combat, but I deployed to it. I had the gold ribbon around the gold border around my expeditionary ribbon or whatever. Like, and the guy who was harassing me was a single-term reservist who had never been activated or deployed.
Right.
And here he was coming after me, and I'm not at all saying like, well, see, I was more of a veteran than him.
Right.
Like, but I respect the fact that this guy, during a time of conflict and war and uncertainty, signed his name on the dotted line and told the military, told the Department of Defense, use me
If needed.
Use me if needed in the way that you need in service of this country, and I respect the heck out of that. So I would never dream of being like, you know, he never activated, he never deployed, and I did. Where does he get off talking to me like that? Because, like, that sort of infighting in the veteran community cheapens all of us.
Oh, yeah,
it
absolutely.
makes us all look bad. It makes us all look stupid. And it makes us all look like a bunch of petulant little children to non-veterans who we are trying to get employed
Exactly.
by.
That's exactly.
And so I tried to rationalize with the guy, which was dumb, and I ended up blocking him or whatever. But like, he's still very outspoken, not a fan of mine.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess that's what happens when you create content regularly. You're not going to make everybody happy.
There's a self-esteem issue with that. Like, you're doing something on a platform that's someone else is not doing. You know.
Well, and I think
a little bit of that.
I think he lashed out because he might be self-conscious about his service because maybe he didn't have those experiences, and you know, hangs out with people that do, and maybe somewhere deep down he feels like he's less than. But even though the guy was horrific to me, I'm saying, dude, you don't feel less than.
Yeah.
You served. You did.
Yeah.
I respect you, and I think everybody needs to view our brothers and sisters in arms in the same fashion and stop with the
I've got a very good friend of mine that joined to travel the world and everything, and his first two assignments was Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and Fort Riley, Kansas. And it was like two landlocked states. And but his deployment, he went to Korea rotation and did a Jordan rotation. You know?
Right on, yeah.
And he's like, I just want to deploy. I'm like, that counts. Like, the fact that the only element you're adding is a higher percentage of getting shot at. That's it. It's the only thing you're doing. You go to NTC or JRTC or whatever it's called in Germany. I should probably know that. My Army friends are going to give me a hard time. But, like, that's your time. If you joined in 1993 to 1999, 2000, you know, what'd you do for almost 9 years? What did you do? If you're in the 80s, what did you do? You were on prep for Russia. You know, I mean, it's like that's our job, is to always be ready and to lessen anybody's time for a war not happening isn't their fault. And I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what do you think are some better ways for people to communicate about it in general? Being a current veteran, recently getting out yourself, or if you're an older veteran from Desert Storm area or Vietnam, and how to cross those lines.
Golly, if I had the solution in a silver bullet there, I mean, It's a $1 million question, but I think overarchingly, empathy is what I have noticed our community is largely missing. And so if I apply that across the board to all of the different things that we talked about, like stolen valor, right? Not having empathy and understanding that, like, yes, though I may be personally affronted and offended that somebody is playing dress up and pretending to be something that they are, or that they're not, that I am,
Right.
and trying to claim attention for that. That's infuriating. I get it, and I'm not discounting that. But, like, we skip the step where we say, what is this person potentially going through? You know, we need to be supporting them and getting them help and not abusing them, you know. And if we look at the vet bro thing, we have the, you know, again, aside from the comical aspect, you know, the cliche vet bro is the one who, you know, answers every question online with, you know, as a combat veteran, ... I believe blank, and that stereotype, that persona believes that they understand everything better than a non-veteran,
Right.
You
or
know,
non-combat veteran.
yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
So, and like, I served for 4 years, and I went to, you know, Qatar and, you know, briefly to Afghanistan, and so clearly I am a global foreign policy expert. And it's like, no, you aren't.
Yeah.
You just, you know, you ate at a Pizza Hut in a Connex for 6 months, like,
And 2 beers a day in Qatar.
like, and you may obviously you may understand, you know, where to get the best food in Doha.
Yeah.
Compared to somebody who hasn't been there, but you're not a global policy expert. So like that, and what happens is that person is knee deep in their own ego, and they are losing empathy and consideration for other people and their thoughts and experiences.
Yeah.
So like across the board, I just see a lack of empathy when I see a veteran backstab another veteran. There's problems with ego, and there is a lack of empathy.
Yeah.
And so this solution would be for everybody to take a step back, look in the mirror, and just chill out. And I don't know what the actual chill pill is. Like, if I could give the veteran community a chill pill, I would. But I
You hit something there. I think one of the things within that, though, that entire thing is oversell. I think a lot, and I see on LinkedIn all the time, the people I've served with, and like I see their paragraph, a timeline that overlaps with mine, and they're like, you would think that they established a Medal of Honor themselves and that they solved Iraq's presidential problems.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
and I'm like, dude, you're a private.
Yeah.
You know, nothing wrong with that, which I'm doing exactly in that exact phrase right there.
And we do need to make ourselves marketable,
you know,
and
but but I'm shaming the fact that I know him, you know, and this guy not friends, and I gave him a hard time about it. And he's like, I know, man, I'm trying to word it out, make it sound cool, and, you know, make it sound civilian-like and everything, but I think there's a balance in there of, like, hey, put in there what you could truly control. You know, like, what can you control? Like, hey, I managed or was responsible for 48 people. Like, their actual livelihood was my responsibility.
Yeah.
And to make sure they were trained, prepared, and equipped to do their job. The value of the equipment is irrelevant. You know, because I guarantee if you go to some oil rig, they're going to outvalue you real quick.
A couple hundred million, yeah.
And so, like, the value is irrelevant, but, like, hey, I was responsible for my people, and we were proficient at what we were doing. And you can apply that, I think, to any job. It doesn't matter if you're a PAO, infantry, a band, a mechanic, or cook. It doesn't matter. It's the same
they all
principle
matter.
of leadership.
And they all play their role. Yeah.
Is to train, prepare, and equip people to do their job. And that's, I think, what people should focus on, my personal opinion, on when they're verbalizing these things, and not being like, I had 85 tanks. It's like, you know, but someone doesn't realize they may be overselling it, and they're gonna read about, oh my gosh, that's a lot of tanks. In the grand scheme of things, no, it's not. We have a whole lot more, you know. But I
managed $180 million worth of tanks, and it's just one tank.
I got 23 jumps out of an airplane. I don't know how it's going to help.
Yeah,
you know, it tells them I'm a little bit crazy.
That's a really good point. And I think I think even more than empathy, the word that you said that hits the nail on the head is balance.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like everything in our society is polarized, obviously, to the point where we're unable to accept anything in a gray area when 99.5% of humanity and everything that we do is in the gray area, is somewhere in between these two separate poles.
Yeah.
For example, if we're talking about employment, are veteran employment issues the responsibility of the civilian employer? Yes. And is the onus on the veteran to make themselves marketable and convey their skills accurately? Yes.
Absolutely.
So like the current state of employment, we have a lot of people that will, light switch on, they will say, well, it's the veteran's fault. Light switch off, it's the employer's fault.
Right.
As opposed to saying it is a combination of things.
Yeah.
When it comes to veterans interacting with one another, as opposed to saying like, well, we need to revere combat veterans or we need to appreciate what everybody brings to the table.
Right.
How about we do both things? How about we establish a balance where we can, where we can simultaneously appreciate the experiences and the sacrifices made and the honor and the valor of the people who have done X, Y, Z, while also appreciating and not diminishing or demoralizing the people that didn't have those same experiences. Like that balance. And I think with empathy at the core, maybe we've found the solution.
There it is. We got it. Empathy and balance.
Empathy and balance. Yeah.
I think there's a big deal there with employers understanding one part of it for sure. And I think you posted a good thing about your character. I made a meme about for you about the flag.
Oh yeah.
And it's like for me, like I thought that whole video was hilarious, but
it also hurt. It's like hurt because it's accurate.
But it's like for me, and this is where I guess maybe I'm more secure in what I've done and what I haven't done is I don't care what a company does on Veterans Day. I really don't. I'm losing no sleep on it. What I care about is can I go to my daughter's school and let my daughter see me, because my daughters are 3 and 6. They've never seen me in uniform. She was born before COVID. I'm retiring here pretty soon, and I've teleworked every time in between, so she's never seen me in uniform.
Right.
So like the only time I get to do it is Veterans Day. I mean, in my house I could do it, but that's just weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
What are you doing in your Class A's? Just don't ask questions. But I think there's a balance though. If you're that soldier, the vast majority for any branch is obviously junior enlisted that do one term and get out. And I think if you're listening to this and you're overselling your time as a junior person, like you're like, well, I should be senior management. It's like, well, you went out of high school at 18, joined the service of choice, did your 3 or 4 years and got out, so now you're 21, 22. And like you didn't, vast majority, at least on the Army side that I've seen by personal experience, is that people are not using the college benefits. I finished my degree using the college benefits, never touched my GI Bill. And I paid out of pocket for the difference for a master's degree. So I have my entire GI Bill to give my kids.
I have squeezed every drop out of that GI Bill, man.
But tuition assistance is a great resource. And I'm like, if you didn't use any of that and get any school, and you're only saying, well, I was a team leader or squad leader, and you're trying to oversell it, and you're mad that you're getting entry-level positions, it's like there's a moment you need to have in the mirror of like, validate yourself, and you're trying to oversell it and not shame it. But I think there's a tough piece there. People are come through moment. People are not
oh
really,
yeah, you aren't kidding, man.
So
the balance aspect there, and I'm continually like I'm excited about how well the balance word is applying across the board here. We need to like write this down or something.
Change the title to balance.
But yes, whether you're a single or a second term enlistee or whatever, you're getting out of the military. Generally speaking, you will have progressive experience. You will have progressive leadership experience. You will have a wide skill set And the average first-term enlistee who's transitioning knows how to use Microsoft Office,
Right.
knows how to use a copy machine, understands basic chain of command.
Right.
There are certain skills. And
You didn't manage a 150-person operation.
Right.
I think people try to do that, though.
And even if you did, though, let's say, like you said, the 48 people, you managed 48 people, that's a huge job.
Yeah.
Being a leader, and a lot of civilians will assume, like, oh, this person, I'm interviewing a veteran, they're probably going to have good leadership skills. That's just like the assumption.
Right.
You and I both know that not
That's not
everybody
true.
in the military is a good leader.
Yeah.
Even people in leadership positions
Yeah.
in the military. But again, it's balanced, because those leadership skills, those soft skills, those secondary skills, leadership is a secondary ancillary benefit.
Yeah.
And those are the things that will set you apart and make you marketable. However, on the other end, to maintain balance, you have to have direct technical aptitude, right? 'Cause if I have great progressive leadership, program management, personnel management, blah, 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 I have a veritable mountain of secondary skills and really attractive, marketable ancillary skills. But I'm not an architect, and I'm applying for a job at an architectural firm. I'm not going to get the job.
Yeah.
And it's not because they don't care about veterans, and it's
Yeah.
not because they...
You don't have the skill set.
Yeah, you don't have the skill set. So again, it is balanced, like
Right.
direct technical aptitude, secondary skills. And
Right.
too many people say it's one or the other, either or.
Well, they're overselling the secondary skills. That's a
Or
primary.
overselling that. Yeah, you
Yeah.
put all your eggs
Like,
in the secondary
I've-
skills basket.
I can do things on PowerPoint you didn't know you could do. It's
Yeah.
like, that's great. I need you to build a house.
Yeah.
And it's like, that doesn't, if you can draw on PowerPoint, that's actually really impressive, but it still doesn't get it built.
Yeah, like do you understand residential electrical code?
Yeah.
Because that's what I need.
Yeah, can you do single phase or,
Yeah.
what's it, all the phases? So I think there's a piece there for that. And I think there's, going forward, for people to have an honest talk with themselves and to figure out what the balance is of like what they could control and like emphasize what you did with what you could control,
Mm-hmm.
and then put a little bit less emphasis on the things that you were a part of that you couldn't control. I think that's
Absolutely.
so if you look at my profile, it's kind of what I do is like I was a part of some stuff. I was there, but like I'm in a book with one of my old PLs that got hurt. I mean, I was there in that fight, but I was 500 yards away. And I watched it. And my next episode after this one is about that.
Oh, okay.
And and kind of how veterans feel the worst emotion out there is helpless. And that's called a nugget right there for y'all. I think there's, I couldn't control where I was positioned in that fight.
Right.
But what I could control was what I could do in things that preparing my guys for that fight. And so that's what I try to make sure I accent on certain things. So I think for everyone out there, I think that's my approach is those two things. So, but
That's a really good point. I was thinking about, and this may be completely, it is somewhat unrelated, but I think there's a parallel. So, like I said, I started out in the Air Force Band, and my undergraduate education was in music. And while you're, going through school as a musician, your school of music will often bring in professional musicians, established professional musicians that will come into a clinic and play with your band, and they don't know you, they don't know your name, they don't know you from the next person in the seat next to you, but behind the stand next to them and next to them. But every single person in that band will put on their quote-unquote musical resume, and I did this too. I played with Randy Brecker.
Yeah.
I played
So-and-so.
with,
Yeah.
you name it, right? And so, that's cool that you did that.
did you study under
But
them?
can you play?
Yeah.
Can you actually play? And so the parallel is like the secondary benefit, like having the experience of playing with that musician, whether you really played with them
Right.
or not, or they were just a clinician. And then can you actually do you have the technical aptitude?
Right.
And so musicians will understand. Hopefully I conveyed it so
Yeah.
non-musicians could understand. But there are parallels there. It is a balancing act.
Well, there's a balance of where it's an experience or it's a tool.
Yeah.
I played horse with Dirk Nowitzki, but I didn't play in the NBA. you know.
I like that analogy.
And so I
That's
mean, I
good.
did. I mean, I was in college. I worked
played
for
it.
the,
You played it.
I played for the Dallas. I worked for the Dallas Mavericks years ago. And
Oh, wow.
So, you know, one day I was playing down on the court, and Dirk was there, and we played horse, and I got whooped.
Yeah. Okay. What was the ending score? Was
A
it
horse to nothing. So I don't think you missed a shot. But it's like, but I would never say on a resume like, you know,
Played
contributed to
basketball.
NBA development.
Right.
You know, like, no, it was horse, and
I'm sure you learned a lot,
yeah.
and I'm sure that was a
I
great
learned never
experience.
to put money on it, but that's for darn sure, and I didn't. But I mean, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, man.
Just to give wrap this up a little bit, and remind everybody, if you haven't gotten the book by Adam, it's LinkedIn Mastery for Veterans and Transitioning Service Members. It's a great pickup, short read, and highly recommend it. Adam, thanks a lot for taking the time.
My pleasure, man.
So we're here in the
Thanks
lobby.
for flying out here for this.
Yeah,
That's
we're
cool.
here in the lobby of this casino and hotel in Vegas. Got our bags next to us. It's great. But looking forward to future episodes, and definitely subscribe on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or Spotify.